I am so excited for this episode. You do not want to miss this. You want to share this with everybody you can. Laurette Woodward, she is out of Chinook's Edge School Division in Canada. And this episode is just littered in the best way, of tips and strategies and really keeping the storytelling simple. And she's going to dive into the amazing results that have happened since she did this. She's going to talk about how she trains her 29, 30 schools on being social media influencers. She's going to talk about a rubric she created that's very basic of, okay, here's good, better, best. And it's still not overwhelming. She's going to share that data behind what has really grown. And then she's going to share a summer content idea that she thought was just going to be a filler post. And it ended up to be the top reaching post of the year for her school division. And we're going to share some examples in the show notes. Okay. So make sure you check those out, but listen in. Laurette is a member of our membership group. If you want to jump in 2025, it's like, this is my year. I'm going to do this. You want that support, that inspiration, those ideas. I'd love to have you in there. It is a very low price to be in that online membership training group. And Laurette and hundreds of people from across really the world, mainly across North America, US and Canada, are in that group. And we'd love to support you in your storytelling efforts. So before we get into the interview, I'm going to start with one quick K-12 PR tip. All right, today's K-12 PR tip. Laurette's theme is really about keeping it simple. And I wanted to share a keeping it simple for an Instagram reel. So one of the tips that I have in regards to video content is that the thumbnail, the cover image, it really matters, okay? And sometimes we can't pick a spot within the video that is going to be a great cover image. Well, here's a little hack that's very quick. Go to your Instagram stories and create something there with a little picture. Maybe there's a little bit of text on it that tells people what they're going to learn about inside the reel that you created. You created an Instagram stories, but you don't post it to Instagram stories. You simply save it to your phone. Okay. So you save it to your phone, whether it be animated at all or whether it just be a still shot, and you add that as the cover image. You can add it to your video itself. So you could put that in as a clip to start your video, or you could simply just use it for the cover image. You got what I'm saying? Obviously, if you just use it for the cover image, you're not going to add any animation to it. Okay. But if you're going to add it into the video itself, you could add some animation like typing out a title, right? So just want to share that little tip that could really help you with your cover image for your reel. And I learned this one from my daughter, okay? My 17-year-old student intern has taught me this. And so I hope that helps. Now let's get into today's really helpful episode with Laurette Woodward. I am so excited to welcome today's guest. We have Laurette Woodward in the house. Laurette, how are you?
Well, how are you, Andrea?
I'm really good. We got to see each other in person not too long ago, and was really excited after just hearing all of the success you've had with social media in your school district. I really wanted to
Thank
talk.
you.
So we've got if you could just share your background and then your
Sure.
role as communications coordinator at Chinook's Edge School Division up there in Canada. So I guess I don't know if you even call it a district up there. You probably call it a division, right?
It's a school division, but we also have school districts in our
Okay.
province. So there's a little bit of both. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, introduce yourself.
Sure. So my background is I was trained as a television reporter. That was my bachelor's degree, and I did that for about 6 years and absolutely loved it. And then I moved to a new community and decided to take a chance on school communications, K to 12 communications. And I loved that too. So I did that for about 7 years. Then I had little people at home who needed me. And so for 15 years, I did freelance work. I also was a school board trustee for a term. And then my kids were old enough and I wanted to come back into this. So about 3 years ago, that's what I did. And 2 years ago, I got my old job back at Chinook Sedge School Division. So that's where I used to work 15 years ago, and now I'm back. So yeah, I work here in Chinook Sedge School Division. There are 11,000 plus students, 30 traditional schools plus 4 Hutterite schools. And my role includes website management and leadership, crisis communication. I support social media, so I run the division social media. We have Facebook and Twitter. And I also support schools in their running of their social media. And basically what I'm trying to do in the division is help principals and schools with their goals and communication. So I'm trying to make our communication more strategic, less tool driven, and more strategy driven. So we're working on that, and social media is just one part of what we're doing.
Okay. So 11,000 students, and are you all by yourself in your communications office there at the division
Yeah.
level?
Yep, I'm a one-man band. Just call me Bert from Mary Poppins.
Yeah. Well, it's important for people to hear that because you're doing really great storytelling. And of course, social media, just like you just said, is not the only part of your job. But not only are you running it for the division, but then you're supporting the 29 schools. So social media, you're doing Facebook and Twitter for the division. What kind of channels are they running at the school level?
So they are all on Facebook. So we have
Okay.
30 schools, 29 are on Facebook. We're getting the 30th this year. So they
Okay.
will all be on Facebook. Some of them have Instagram and none of them are on Twitter. So Instagram is optional for them at this point.
Okay.
We've done our own local research that not only, so in Canada, over 70% of people have Facebook, and it's a way higher number than Instagram. So that's why we emphasize that platform first. And then we also did our own research with incoming kindergarten parents. We surveyed them, what is your number one social media? Because I always hear Instagram is for younger people. And actually, it is not even a comparison in our division. It's over 70% again for young parents are choosing Facebook, and in the 20s for Instagram. And so I've let schools choose Instagram if they want to, if they're getting parent requests for that. But we have encouraged schools to at least do Facebook.
Okay. I love that. Laurette, you're really grounded in the data, right? So it's not just like guessing or this is what works best for us. You've really asked your parents and want to deliver the stories, the way that they want to. I also think it's really smart because sometimes we can be like, oh, we got to add this, we got to add that, and then all of a sudden we're not doing a good job with any of it, right?
Thank you to my mentors for that advice. So you guys are one part of my mentor, and I also have another mentor who I took training with. And the advice that I've learned is do one well. And then if you do it well, then think about expanding it. And so we're still working on step one here. So we're just Facebook for now.
Yeah. And the people that are running it at each of your 29, soon to be 30 schools, is that a volunteer position? Is it a specific position? Is it a stipend? How does it work for your division?
Sure. We asked principals to choose somebody,
Okay.
and this was advice that we got from you.
Okay.
Pick the right person. So it needs to be somebody who's not afraid of social media, who sees the glass as half full, who likes to celebrate. That's who we were looking for. And so it's a wide range of people in our schools. So some principals are doing it. Sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes it's an educational assistant, sometimes it's an admin assistant. There's really a whole gamut of the type of people, but really what we were looking for is the qualities of wanting to celebrate and not being afraid of it. And we didn't also make a qualification or it didn't need to be that you had experience, that we were willing to show. how to do. So we have quite a few beginners a year ago, and so that was kind of fun, getting people going. No, there is no stipend. We are doing this off the side of our desk because we have limited resources. So
Mhm.
how we're making that work is we've asked principals to really think about content flow. And we've not prescribed it because it's different in every building, but it could be a Google folder people dump their photos in. It could be an email address that people email. And we've asked principals to encourage all of their staff to take pictures so that the person who's the hub, we call them social media influencers, don't have to run around the school and get all the pictures and content themselves, but it's sent to them. And they're just the hub to make sure we have media consent, that it aligns with what the vision is. So, and a little bit about that too, if you're interested, we are trying to get schools to be very specific about the types of content that they post. The first step is just celebrate.
Yep.
And then the second step is start using our hashtags. So
Okay.
we're using hashtags as a way to deliver three messages in our school division, and they align with the three priorities in our 3-year plan. So we have CESD, which is Chinook's Edge School Division, hashtag CESD, academic excellence, hashtag CESD, social emotional well-being, hashtag CESD, career connections. And what I've heard from social media influencers is they really appreciate that because it helps them to know why they are telling a story. Not all stories are connected to that, but I'm trying to get them to think, what is the evidence that we are doing this work and how can I show it so that parents can see it?
Yeah.
So
I love that. So you're really trying to simplify, yes, celebrate, but then let's tie it to these main themes, this main strategy that we want to communicate. And I saw it just as I was scrolling through your division page. One that was right away was a career connection. And so that was so cool. And obviously that's our goal, is to get our kids ready for careers. And so what an obvious thing. So, those of you who are listening, whatever yours might be, whether you have those hashtags developed or not, having a strategy behind the stories that you're telling, I think really helps. And there is things like ChatGPT and things like that to help us a little bit with our captions, because sometimes it can be challenging to know exactly what to put. But those themes are really going to help with all of that. So how do you train? You said you've got some newbies. So how do you train those social media influencers at each spot? What does that look like?
So we've done kind of three things so far. So in the fall last year, so we started to get every school onto social media. It was expected by September 2023.
Okay.
And before that, we had 22 out of 30 schools on. By September 2023, we had 29 on.
Okay.
And so we did an in-person training session for half a day at our division office. Also, we established a Google Classroom with content in it that people could access.
Hmm.
I found that that was partly successful. So I don't want to put that out there as the solution for everybody. Um, you may find this too, Andrea, that when people aren't looking for something, they don't see that you're offering it,
Right.
but they go find it when they need something.
Hmm.
And people didn't always go find it. And so, what we're looking at this year, I've done two things. I've met with every single school administrator this fall. And one of the topics that I wove into that discussion was, how are you helping content flow? Because that was our major challenge last year. And so I'm supporting them in that way, but also in the new year, we're going to have some training sessions online. There'll be some mandatory, but not mandatory, but come. And
Hmm.
then there will be some optional sessions that kind of give additional information. And I've talked to you a little bit about that, Andrea. I'm so excited to pull in some of the resources that you've shared um, to support people as they go on this journey with us.
Yeah. So Laurette is part of our membership group at Social School for EDU. How long have you been part of that, Laurette?
So I did it a little bit. I did a 6 month membership when I was a part of Clearview School Division and
Okay.
learned a lot from you there. And then I got your book and I read that and learned a lot from you there. And then I moved to Chinook Edge School Division almost 2 years ago. And I'm doing the 6 month membership again right
Oh,
now.
okay, awesome. Yeah, the value of being able to pull those resources for your other folks are so great. And I mean, you probably know a lot about social media. Sometimes you're just like, well, what would I need a group like that for? But I think having that constant support, ideas.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. I have loved it. And I learned a few things too that I didn't know before, and I don't consider myself an expert. I think we always have things to learn, and social media is always changing. And people bring such creative ideas to that group.
Mhm.
So I really love hearing all the creative ideas, and they're inspiring. Um, Also, I learn little things from you that help me do my job better. So I learned this at conference actually, but I'll share it.
Mhm.
That whole 6% of the wedge has really helped me explain to schools why you can't just post information posts all the time.
Mhm.
Like I knew it before, but to have the data of it's 6% of your followers see your post and how you widen that wedge to make it bigger is make your posts engaging. People do not like those information posts. They just don't.
Mhm.
So trying to get outside of that. And I just love that you've given these little nuggets everywhere that help me do my job better. So thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. It's a lot. It's hard to keep up with everything, but luckily we're kind of all in this together. Now,
You're
you
doing great. I'm in your fan club, as you
thank,
know.
thank you. Well, you recently won an award from Case, so I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about Case and then share more on the project you worked on to win that award.
Sure. So CASE stands for the Canadian Association of Communicators in Education. So in Canada, it's like NSPRA,
Okay.
right? NSPRA in the US. It is an organization for K to 12 communicators, and it's fantastic. I love being a member of CASE. I learned so much from my peers. And when I came into communications, I knew how to write. I was a good writer, but I didn't understand strategic communication at all. And CASE was a big reason why I learned more. And do I still have lots to learn? 100%. But going to those conferences and participating in the professional development really helps me to grow. So I love CASE. So at the national conference, you can nominate your work that you've done for the last year in different categories. So the project that I nominated was our social media work, and the category I put it in was the program category. So that's the one. It's the long one, that a big application, and you have to write how you followed the RACE formula, which is research, analyze, communicate, evaluate. In other words, don't start at communicate. That's what some of us do. We just jump in and we're doers. But what we're supposed to actually do to do a project well is to back up. What is the background? What's the research? What's the opportunity? What's the challenge? Be really clear about that. Be really clear about your audience. Make a plan that can be evaluated and then carry it out and see how it went. So I followed that process, and I am so thrilled that professional communicators looked at my work and said, that's at a level of excellence. So that was exciting to me because I had not run a social media page for an organization until 3 years ago. It was new for me. I was intimidated and hoping that I would do good. And I invested and tried to really learn a lot. And the fact that we're at that level of excellence just makes me excited and proud. I could do hard things.
Yeah, I know. And so it can be intimidating, right? And you can be a little bit scared, but you jumped in and kind of grabbed great resources and some great mentors. So it's great to be able to get some recognition. I agree.
You.
So when it comes to increasing that reach, which we talked about. You talked about the 6%. On average, for a business type page, your posts only reach 6% of your followers. So if you have 1,000 followers, you're only going to reach 60. But you can reach more if you drive, like you said, drive that wedge open, if you can increase the engagement. Okay. So what strategies have you used to increase that reach and engagement and followers at both your school and division level?
So I would say we're still at the beginning of this journey,
Okay.
right? So we
Yep.
still have lots to do. We're nothing fancy. If you go check out Chinook Said School Division Facebook page, you will see our approach is very methodical, consistent, and it's not flashy. I think that sometimes people think it has to be reels and fancy stuff, and certainly those are fun and really great for driving engagement, but we're not there yet. We're just at the beginning and we're running this off the sides of our desks. So I just decided, let's be real. Let's just start with the basics. So I've developed a rubric for my schools. And what the rubric says is here's the beginning level, here's a more advanced level, and here's where we're aiming at. But here's where we're aiming at, I would say, is still very basic. So it is, let's start with 2 posts a week. I know in social media land that's not enough, but for some of our schools, getting to 2 posts a week is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start at 2 and let's work to 1 a day. And let's have 75% of your content be about kids instead of announcements.
Yeah.
So we're working on these basic things. We're working on content flow. And so I would say our success has come from just doing the basics. And my encouragement out to people out there is you can get so overwhelmed with all the magical things that you can do. And it's like, where do I even start? And where we started was just at the basics. Just post happy kids. Post happy kids. And then start to be a little bit more strategic. Are we carrying our message? Are we doing it more than twice a week? Are we showing our key things that we wanted to show? So I'll just share some data too, if you're
Yeah.
interested in what
Yes.
we were able to achieve. So I put this in my Case Bravo Award nomination. So I measured all 29 schools and averaged them out. So between September 2023, when we all wanted them to start, and April 2024, that was the window we looked at, we saw a 170% increase in engagement and a 72% increase in reach. And then also over all of those 29 pages, we saw an 8% increase in followers. And that just happened naturally. We encourage schools to say to parents, please come, and staff, please come. But we didn't get aggressive about that. And so it just kind of naturally happened. I also measured the divisions page and I widened the window. So I started January 2023 was my job here when I started.
Mm-hmm.
And then I closed the window of measuring in April 2024. So during that period, there was a 743% increase in reach and 1,000% increase in engagement, 23% increase in followers. So I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just posting regularly. And so my encouragement to people out there is you don't have to be fancy. If you can, awesome, because that does drive engagement. And I'm not dissing any of those fun things, but if you can just do one thing, just be consistent and post about happy kids. So, and then it's starting to shift some things too. I put this in my Bravo Award nomination, but we asked parents in a kind of like a little focus group that we have that meets 3 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
We asked them for their impressions about social media and our plan. We explained what we were doing and asked them to look at their social media pages.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us, and I was expecting kind of a mixed bag because we were just out of the chute. But what we got was overwhelmingly positive. They love seeing their kids. They told us they love that it's giving them a way of talking to their kids at night about what's happening at school. And to me, that's one of the main goals. I'm trying to connect home with school. And then this was the clincher for me. I know it's only one little story, but it just made me feel amazing. So we have one school, it's a high school that's had a bad rap in the community for over 20 years. And the data actually shows it's an excellent school, high grad rates, high provincial testing results, um, kids that feel cared about at school. Like there's so much good in the data that's happening at that school. And people just like to diss on the school. And they do it in Facebook groups in the community and bad word of mouth. So there was a new principal last year, and I said, let's get down to business. So she asked some questions, she made some changes. And one of the changes that she made was to just be more consistent on Facebook. And she got a really good person doing that work. And the change is significant. When we did that parent group, the parent from that school emailed me after and said, I knew there was something going on. She said, I've watched that and I'm in all of those Facebook groups in our community. And I've heard this school be talked about badly for years. But this year, somebody moved into our community that was new and said, hey, what about this school? And what happened instead of the usual was people jumped in with all these positive things that our school is doing. The only shift, more social media. And I was like, yay! So we're starting to change perceptions of people, and that builds morale. It makes the school good for kids to want to go to. The community is involved. Like so much good comes from this. And so that's why I'm excited about this work. It really makes a difference for people.
Yeah. Laurette, I feel like this is a totally a school communicator TED Talk because it's really inspiring in just that simplicity. I think all of us are feeling overwhelmed. It's that time of year where, it's the middle of the year and there's so much going on and we feel so much pressure to, kind of keep up with all these trends and everything. And I just try to remind folks it is that everyday storytelling. It's that consistent, methodical, as you described it, storytelling. It's helping the schools do 2 posts a week. A great goal would be 5, but if you can at least get 2. And then we want 75, 3 out of 4 posts need to be really stories about the kids, not just informational. And the proof is definitely in your results. I mean, obviously you have grown all 29 schools, but I think it's really amazing how you've been able to grow the district or the division page, 1,000% increase in engagement and 743% reach. And I can't help but think that the stories they're sharing at the schools, are you sometimes then able to take some of those stories and share those on the division page?
Yeah, and I track it. So I give
Okay.
them all a turn. So I make sure that I don't overshare from one school and undershare from another. I also track my hashtags to make sure I'm balanced on those. And the other thing, the beautiful thing that happens is when I'm looking for stories, so where I get my stories from is a newsletter that I send out to staff once a week. Most of those stories I post directly as original stories on the division Facebook page. I also share school stories and reshare their posts, so that makes up my content. But sometimes seeing the school posts gives me ideas for my newsletter. So the school hasn't remembered to tell me, but I can go find it on their Facebook page. So it's like a circle, right? Like what I get from them, I share, and then they share, and we all build each other together.
Yeah. So, do you have another favorite story that you've been able to share from your school on social media? You told me the story of, the impact it's making as far as people asking in those other gossip groups, and now people are saying good things about that school. But just, is there a story or two that has been a favorite that you've either been able to share at the division level or the schools have shared, maybe this year or just in the past?
I'll give you one that I think is a great idea of something that people could do in the summer. So when I started here in January 2023, I'm like, oh, what am I going to do to fill content in the summer? And
Hmm.
fortunately, Social School for Edu has lots of really good ideas about that. And I sat there and I thought about it one day and I'm like, ding, ding, I know what I'm going to do. So our one of our pillars is career connections. And we have kids in the summer that do work experience and it's supervised by a teacher and a teacher goes out to them and makes sure they're doing okay and checks on them. And so I thought, I know what we could do. When the teacher goes out, take a picture. Hopefully, they're wearing something like their coveralls or their work uniform or whatever. So the instructions are please make it look authentic to the location. And some pictures are stronger and some pictures aren't as strong, and that's okay. We took them. And then also, they filled out a Google form with information like what's the kid's name, what school do they go to, what grade are they in, what is the employer, what are they doing for their work experience, and then also a little quote about what are they excited about in the job, what are they learning that's pertinent to their careers. Anyways, so I shared it just as a filler. So, but it blew up this summer. So our typical reach for a typical post on our division page is 2,000. That's typical for us.
Okay.
And we have about 4,500 followers, so
Okay.
we do pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, but we had 5 of those career posts this summer break the 20,000 reach.
Wow.
And we had 3 at these levels. So we had one get to 48,000 reach, one got to 61,000 in reach, and one got to our all-time high, 156,000 in reach. I'm like, whoop, whoop. So what I thought was just going to be a filler so our algorithms didn't die actually set records compared to what I had carefully crafted all year long. And these were just really quick little posts that we had done in the summer. So we're doing that every summer.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, can you share with me maybe the post that reached that 156,000 and we'll put that in the show notes for everybody? My question is this, so that the teacher that went out took the picture, who filled out the form? Did the student fill out the form or the teacher?
They did it together.
Okay.
So
I
it's a
love that
quote from
answer.
the kid, but the teacher's doing the typing probably.
Okay. So it's just kind of part of their connection time is like, okay, we're gonna not only take this
Yes.
picture, we're gonna fill this out and just asking them. And you know what, you guys, at the end of the day, we got to get it done. And so being able to just have them do that together, and what an impact. I love that story, Laurette.
It
That
was
it,
just such a surprise. Like
yeah.
I was thinking, well, if we get 1,000 in reach, like
What,
that'll at least our Facebook page doesn't die after I've done all this work,
right.
and then like, whoa, we set new records.
What was the 156,000? What kind of job did that student have? Do you remember?
I don't, but it had
Okay.
something to do with trades. So
Okay.
I'll go find it and connect it. I'll give you the top 3 in case
Okay.
people want for their notes, for the
Perfect.
notes. And then they can go look. Like, and what they'll see is it's nothing fancy. It's a picture or two of a kid in their gear, right?
Hmm.
And that's what I've said to like, please don't just put them in regular clothes standing in a room with clutter behind them. Like, that's not as good of a picture. Put the business sign behind them or make sure they're in their coveralls or if they're at a bakery that they've got dough on their hands or
Hmm.
like have the picture do the talking. And in some cases we did great at that and other times we could have done better, but I couldn't go out to
Hmm.
take all these pictures, so I was grateful for what I got and we used what we had. And same with the content that we gathered through the Google Forms. Sometimes it was spectacular and other times it was just regular,
Yeah.
but that was okay. And I think why it went crazy was because people love to cheer for the kids. They love to cheer on youth. They want youth to be successful. And so we tapped into that feeling and it went nuts.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Oh, that's great. And people do love the trades. And so that's great. So as we wrap up, Laurette, I feel like we could talk all day because you're sharing such great tips and advice. What
Thank
would you
you.
say what would you say is your best social media tip?
Keep it simple. Just build it. Don't get overwhelmed. Just do one good post at a time. And it by good, I'm not meaning it's the fanciest reel you've ever seen in your life and it has all the bells and whistles and you did it in CapCut and you used all the filters. Like I personally, I think that's so amazing that people do that. I find it a little overwhelming. And I will get there. I will learn because I have done hard things. But I am just starting with the basics. And the
Mhm.
basics are tell stories about kids and connect it to the goals of your organization. And that's a winning combination. It's enough for your followers to want to engage with you.
Yeah. Oh, geez, I just sometimes I get out of these, Laurette, and I feel like I went to school PR church because just of all of the great things you're saying.
Thank you.
And
I feel like I'm in your fan club. So for you to say that, thank you, Andrea.
yeah, well, Laurette, I'm really proud of you. I mean, the all
Thank
these
you.
you know, accomplishments that you're gaining throughout the whole division are because of your leadership and your willingness to jump in. And I love it. So if people want to stay connected to you, Laurette, would that be your email address? What would be the best way, do you think?
Sure, people could email me. So
Okay.
my email is L Woodward, WOODWARD at CESD73.ca.
Okay.
And then you could also check out our Facebook page,
Yeah.
Chinooks and
And we'll
School Division.
Yeah, we'll link both in the show notes. Okay. So we'll have your email address there. We'll have your Facebook page there. I just want to thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I think this is going to go down as one of the best interviews I've done. I'm so
Thank
excited and I'm
you.
so proud of you, Laurette. Keep up the great work.
And thank you for all of the great ideas that you put out there. It's really awesome to be a part of your community. I really admire your work, and I'm grateful for all of the amazing ideas and resources and inspiration that you regularly share. Thank you, Andrea,
Yeah.
and to your whole team. I
Yes,
got to meet Melissa
absolutely.
too, so shout out to Melissa too.
Yes, Melissa, you got to meet her in person too. Yeah, we've got a great squad here, and it's fun being a cheerleader for all the great storytelling that's happening, across the country, across the continent, up into Canada, and really truly around the world. So, thank you all for listening in today. You might have to listen to this episode one more time for some of this great advice. And if you put anything to work, in your district, in your division that ends up working well, email me back, Andrea at socialschoolforedu.com. We like to know that we're making a difference and being able to share your stories and your success stories with others. So we'll see you next week. And thanks so much, Laurette. Bye bye.
Thank you.